Hi, I'm David King, editor of The Collaborative, joined by Richard Lovrich, who is our visual arts columnist and creative director at Proctor's. And today we're really lucky to have Kristen Holler from Albany Barn and the Electric City Barn. You have a lot going on, as always. You pay attention to your calendar, and the events you guys are throwing pretty amazing. And meanwhile, you have all these arts, education sort of things going on. And then obviously this October 18th, you have the Anti-Gala, which does it cover all of your fundraising for the year, or is it?
It is our biggest fundraiser for the year, and it's really like our only structured fundraising initiative for the year. So it is a very critical event for us, especially as we look at our most recent expansion and just trying to really develop our programming tracks and strengthen them as much as we can.
So, Richard, you're a little bit involved in the barn.
Yes,
have been for a while.
Well, first I want to add that when we talk about these things, we talk about them from this point of view, but I want people to realize your galas are so much fun. And they're a great place for terrific people to network in the most wonderful way.
One of the biggest compliments that I've ever received about Fusion is that it was just such an interesting mix of people.
Absolutely.
That it was not, your quote unquote traditional gala crowd, and it really is a little bit of everyone, and it speaks so much to who we are as an organization and the really intentional way that we partner and collaborate across different sectors and with all walks of life. And so I think our galas are a ton of fun. Our anti-gala is a ton of fun, and it's a little bit of something different. And we, every year I get how do I dress? I'm like, come as you are, not formal but not too casual. Have fun with it. We want people to come and network in an authentic way, connect with other people, and see something cool that inspires you. I just absolutely love our event every year.
Well, another wonderful aspect is that many of your residents are there. Yes. And that is just, I've introduced people from the corporate world or other people from the art world to residents, and it really does kind of blow everyone's mind. I know in the past you've also had the opportunity for some people to visit some of the units. Will you be doing that again?
All our resident artists are so gracious in opening up their homes and their work studios. They want to share what they're doing. Everybody who's in the building is excited to be there. They're excited about building community and about advancing their projects. So it's great because absolutely. If you come, someone will grab you, and if you're interested, and take you on a tour either of one of the lofts or a work studio.
It's a great opportunity. I've chased a couple cats down that hallway.
Yeah. Yes, we do have a couple of resident cats that can get a little wily if they're let out.
Do you have a way that you're incorporating what's going on at the Electric City Barn into the gala this year? Is there a way to highlight what's been done there this year?
Yes, so every year we open up our exhibition and our artist challenge to members and artists in residence, and this year we're including Electric City Barn members and key holders. And so we'll see some of those elements come into the event as well.
And what has that been like? I assume the gala in some ways is sort of like a milestone. You opened the barn earlier this year. You've been with the Albany Barn since essentially the inception. So what's it like now having this other thing to watch over and grow? I mean, have you had a chance to step back since?
It's really interesting because you're right. I did come in very, very early on. I was actually our founder, Jeff Morell's intern when I was in college. So I really I saw his vision, and I just understood it, and I wanted to help make it a reality. And then as I got into it, I got a vision of my own. And that was a little bit different than Jeff's vision. But it was in my head, and it was really complicated and big. And then I found my person who was like, I love your idea. And then they made it make sense, like well past where I could have gotten it. And so it's been really interesting kind of being on both sides of that, of being entrusted to care for someone else's vision and to deliver it, and to do that being mindful of what they thought and planned for, but also being realistic and being in the moment of what's really going to be possible. And then having to do that with my own vision, to hand an idea to somebody and say, this is what I think, but I think you can take it beyond what I thought. And then watching that happen, it's been the most rewarding thing I could ever have done. And to do it in my hometown, being from Schenectady, it's just like, I'm over the moon. So, we're working out kinks. Obviously, we're coming up on a year of being opened, and we're really still getting things moving forward and tweaking processes, but it's been so exciting just to be involved in the process, and watching my staff in Albany just really step up and take such a leadership role. I have just the best team. Fight me on it. Like, I have the best team. They're so good, and I've just seen their growth and the growth of our artists and their engagement, and it's just over the trajectory of, coming from this concept of Albany Barn and then looking at it and going, oh wow, we can really have an impact on a regional level, and we are making a difference in the lives of people, and we're encouraging people to stay here who may otherwise have left. And what an amazing gift, to be able to give to the place that raised me, that I have so much love for. So yeah, I'm just couldn't be happier.
The questions that I have fielded about both barns, either barn,
yeah.
I think it's worth taking a moment. The newspaper person in me wants to take a moment to, in a brief way, what are the similarities and differences of the missions of the two barns? Like recently someone said, and they were looking to live at the barn in Schenectady, and they were an artist, and I pointed to the difference in policy there, and
Sure.
instructed her to call.
Yeah, so Electric City Barn is attached to housing. We have a nonprofit housing developer that we worked with, but it's not specifically artist housing.
Right.
So you still could potentially apply to live adjacent to a makerspace, and we have a partnership with that organization so that they're actually an organizational member, and their residents do have access to our space through that membership.
Okay.
But it's very different in that we don't have 13 artists living in the building. We have 13 families.
Is that mostly like a HUD clearing then, without an electricity board in between?
Yes, so
Right.
we don't do any of the selection, recruitment
Gotcha.
for tenants there, though we have made referrals off of, folks who've applied to Albany Barn who maybe their family size is too large or their income doesn't quite fit. We've said, this is an artist housing, but you can look at this other opportunity, and we are connected and affiliated.
Right.
So I always say that the venues have the same mission and different methods of delivering it. So, the barn has always been about kind of creating the infrastructure and the culture for the creative economy to thrive, and for it to be inclusive and socially responsible, and to really be a steward between, where arts and economic development, business development really kind of collide. So in Albany, our studios are all sort of privately held. They're equipped by the artist who is working in them, and so they really have that ownership over their space. And we really wanted to get into training and workforce development in a much more structured way. But that's hard to do when you have an artist who's working and it's their piece of equipment that if something happens to it, like there goes their month financially.
Right.
So we really wanted to provide the space and the tools and the resources for artists who want to share their knowledge to be able to do so. So that's where the Electric City Barn's makerspace model comes in, because now we have larger studios, so bigger physical footprint with some cool toys in them. We have experts who can safety train, and then we're developing these ongoing programs where people can come in and really learn or hone skills within these creative disciplines.
And I think I remember from the notes, and this probably gets to the next phase of the dream of the Electric City Barn, that it becomes this referral service.
Yes.
Can you explain that a little bit? Because that's kind of amazing and wonderful.
Sure. So looking at the creative economy in a data-driven way has been so instrumental in helping us to shape where we're going and what our role is in this big, creative economy mix. And there's 16,000 plus freelancers working here, and I know a bunch of them, and a lot of them have big ideas, but when you're a one-person shop, they can be difficult to execute. So we said, we're working in these communities where we have people who are looking for opportunity to learn. They're looking for education, looking for job training, there's lots of underemployment. And then we have folks who have big ideas and maybe not the human capital to pull it off. Let's connect them. And then once we do that, let's start to look at who's coming through who really has a knack for something or a passion for it. Let's get them into a database so that the next, freelancer that comes along that has a project that now fits into this skill set, we can make a connection. We can help to structure the agreement so that it's mutually beneficial. We can make referrals to local businesses who are looking for talent. So it's really just about making that data work for everyone and making it accessible, and really letting people know that there's opportunity here within that creative economy, and it can be on the micro scale or it could be your full career.
That sort of pollination has been what really impresses me, certainly over the last year. I think your trip to talk to Scout Pines, and it turned out he was using photos by Shannon.
That's right.
Straney, whose portraits are just absolutely stunning and detailed, and to make that connection makes a lot of sense to me, looking at his work and looking at hers. But I never would have guessed without following that. But also someone like Jordan Taylor Hill, who it's funny because we wrote this feature about him, and obviously he had events and classes all over the place. But then I started looking into summer camps, and he's doing a summer camp, and my daughter could go to class with him. And it's great to see these folks functioning and getting gigs that aren't necessarily the thing you would think.
The best thing I ever gave Jordan Taylor Hill was a notebook. It's the person he's brilliant and motivated and has so many great ideas. And I said, you have to start writing these down so that I can help you to plan and execute them. And he's one he's been there, since the opening of the barn, and his progress has just been tremendous. Again, just couldn't be more proud and honored to have a part in that, any small part, in just being that sounding board and that encouragement, but yes, being that connecting point too, making a relationship with the libraries, or, Jordan's first real teaching gig was through a partnership that we had with the Albany District Attorney's Office, where they were sending us into summer camps to provide arts enrichment to these, camps across the county. And we served hundreds of kids over the course of the summer. And Jordan was there. He did camps in the South End and in Arbor Hill and in Cohoes and Watervliet. He was all over the place making connections, and people loved him. And then they invited him back, and it just became a sustainable thing for him. And he didn't need us anymore, and that's what we want. We really want people to outgrow us.
Right. It's always a good dream.
Yeah, right. We're the opposite of like your average landlord. We're like, could you just get this in motion and outgrow? Like, we want you to leave. We want to kick you out of the nest because there's a line behind you of people who want to pursue their passions and to do it here, and we want to be able to help as many of them as we can.
And to see some of those folks create opportunities for the people down the line is sort of amazing. It's really...
The collaborations that happen between the artists and residents is really great, and that's happened so organically at Electric City Barn too. The conversations and the connection points that people will make, and they really consider themselves a part of something. So when they're looking for a photographer, they look in-house first. And, when they're looking for somebody to edit something, or heck, even, do you have a truck and could you move this thing for me? It's about, you're really starting with your neighbors and having that, that accountability to one another. And our artists in residence at Albany have formed some committees this year and are doing some really great work engaging the community and doing some internal kind of professional development on their own. It's been just really encouraging to see them support each other.
And so we talked a little bit about this before starting, and I've heard that there is a project in the works coming up soon at both barns, or is it just the Albany barn?
We're piloting at Albany Barn,
okay.
Because we were able to receive a grant to fit out a space that had been planned since we opened, which is a teaching kitchen and a sort of community cafe, a space for people to gather, and eat. So we're developing a small teaching kitchen, and we're working on a project that we're calling the Our Food Challenge. And it's really looking at addressing food injustice in our communities, and leveraging creatives who are connected and have an intimate knowledge of neighborhoods that are experiencing a lack of access to healthy foods, to diverse food options, and looking at the barriers to health and wellness that are created when you have a situation where people are living, without that access. So bringing in great creative partners, we're working with Collective Effort to develop some web content and some resource maps. But the basic concept is we're going to pair really great chefs who care about this topic from across the region with creatives who have connection to the areas that are most critically hit with food injustice and insecurity, and they're going to, within the span of an hour, have to be able to travel to their food location, to come back, create to create a recipe and then execute it, and really showing like people are living under real time constraints and real transportation constraints, and that all plays into how people are eating and how healthy they are. So we really just want to leverage the creative talents of our culinary artists and our local creatives to just inspire passion and confidence in the kitchen, and also to let people know about the great food resources that we do have, places like Soulfire Farms and Capital Roots. So being a space where those resources can be brought into the neighborhood. We're a site for Soulfire CSA program and looking to partner more in those types of ways.
I mean, it's so striking to me, that issue. I mean, first, it's a great way, since the barn is committed to serving the neighborhood, to really get involved in a major issue. But when I was covering the state capitol for however many years, you'd hear this issue talked about as like this New York City exclusive issue. And I would explain to people, because I had lived in Albany for some time, that it's happening outside your door, and not like you got to get on a bus or you got to take a drive. I mean, it's literally happening outside the Capitol, because those neighborhoods are, bereft of, and meanwhile you have a line of supermarkets on one road, but it's not exactly accessible.
Right.
And so to see that tackled in that way, I think is really important. And I'm really excited to see who gets involved and how the logistics are tackled.
We've seen such a rise, if you pay any attention to things like the weekend backpack program, the need there and the numbers of people that those types of programs are serving are really striking when you think about it. And it's happening right in our public schools and right in our own neighborhoods. So again, sometimes people aren't comfortable reaching out for help when they're having an issue that they feel like maybe they should just deal with. So this is a way to let people be a little bit creative and have a little bit of fun, get some inspiration from, content that's delivered in kind of an interesting way. It's not super nutrition focused, but it will do things like we'll create recipes that do address specific health needs or health concerns that are prevalent in these communities, or snacks and meals that don't require cooking so that young people could do them, or people living in efficiency apartments or shared housing of some sort where they don't have access to a full kitchen. So really looking at barriers and going, we can overcome them all, and we can inform people and empower people in the process so that they can have a means to say, like, hey, my community is not well resourced, and I now know that I need these things, and know how to advocate.
Years ago when I was at the Times Union and I visited Rachel Ray's home for a piece, and it was her kind of TV empire was already begun, and I visited her kitchen. She has no counter space. Mm-hmm. It's not a joke. Like she has no. So you can not only make great food, you can have a food god.
Yes.
By just having the right instructions and believing that you can do it. There's so much ground up creativity happening at the barn, but I think you were talking about someone's discomfort at coming when they think they have a problem. A wonderful thing I've seen with the artists is that both buildings, the buildings and the way they're run, and you folks and the power and the imagination you put behind things, it validates so much of what goes on there in the correct way. And it gives people a real sense of confidence to step up, to move forward, to step out. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's an answer to that, but I just think it's a wonderful, this sounds like scoop hunting or like I'm ending the interview, but any other barns on the horizon, any thought or conversation about other communities?
We have a couple of projects that we are in very early stages of talking about that may or may not look like either Albany or Electric City Barn, but we'll further our mission to really create that infrastructure and that culture that we need to value and support a creative economy that's for everybody, that's really inclusive and does inspire people to, I always say it doesn't matter where people are, it matters that they have an idea of where they're going, and that they're willing to do the work that it takes to move forward.
Right.
And that's what we're here to help them do. So you're absolutely right. I want people to feel confident failing forward, to throw something against the wall and see if it sticks, and to know that they have the resources and support for us, of us, our staff, and our greater community that we're connected to help them be okay failing forward. So there are some potential projects on the horizon, but they're not an immediate thing.
Mm-hmm.
So finally, how should folks who want to come to the gala get involved? What should they expect? And I assume just go to albanybarn.org.
Yes, albanybarn.org/fusion has all the information about tickets. But yeah, I would encourage anybody who has heard about the barn, or even if this is your first time hearing about the barn and you're intrigued, I think Fusion is just the best little glimpse at what it is that we call barn life, and kind of get a little taste of everything that makes this crazy place what it is. So yes, October 18th, 6 o'clock at Albany Barn, and tickets and information at albanybarn.org/fusion.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing this, and I'm very excited to see how that program plays out.
Thank you. And actually, we're going to be piloting that program at Fusion. We're going to be doing a little intro to that program, a little unveiling. So if you're interested in the Hour Food Challenge, definitely check Fusion out.
Very cool. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.